Man, shout out to Corey Sanders, my guy. Some of them, we know him as Pastor Corey. We know him as Cayerio, his artist name from back then. Some of them even might know him all the way back to when he was called Mr. C. Who knows? Man, shout out to Corey for doing this interview. It's been a blessing and just the impact that he's had on my life, not only being a youth pastor and working with him, but also seeing him as a youth when I was a teenager myself as a Christian performer, and just the impact he's had on me personally and countless of others that I know he's had. So, man, I wanted to get a time to just honor Corey, dive into some history. CHH, man, I'm telling you, it lives in people that we probably don't know of. They don't necessarily need to be the most famous, but there's so much history in how Christian hip hop has impacted people and how God has used this and how his people have stewarded this movement for his kingdom. So I'm excited for you guys to tune in. Come on.
Make some noise.
My name's Corey Sanders, born and raised Memphis, Tennessee. I am former Christian hip hop artist. I think when I started out as a kid around 12, my stage name was Mr. C. That would eventually transform into Cayerio. And I maintained that throughout the remainder of my career. I would consider myself retired, but hey, you never know.
We're going to rap for the Dirty South because we're in Memphis, Tennessee. So we're going to rap for the Dirty South and we're going to rap for Jesus Christ.
100%. My mama came home from a camp meeting in Los Angeles, California at Pastor Fred Price, Dr. Fred Price Church in the 80s. Not exactly when, but I remember she bringing home a cassette tape with this dude with a boom box on the front. It was a little cartoon with a guy with a boom box and a Bible in the other hand. And the name of the song was Bible Break. And that was how I learned the books of the Bible, was through Bible Break. Sometime later, within a year, he actually came to our church for maybe summer revival or something like that. I remember sitting on the front row watching this guy, and I had listened to the tape so often that I was able to go through the books of the Bible with him, from Genesis to Revelation. The word's going to say, "This nation," if we learn the word from Genesis to Revelation. So yeah, I thought that was it. But my first rap song and hip hop video I ever saw was "I'm Bad" by LL Cool J. So that was the first hip hop video I ever saw in my life. I remember sitting in the living room watching Yo MTV Raps, and I watched "I'm Bad," and so I was a Def Jam fan from that point on. Anything that was Def Jam, Run DMC, Beastie Boys, LL Cool J, Public Enemy, Slick Rick, I was huge Def Jam. But that was my first, and the first song I ever learned, first rap song I ever learned. Rap. I mean, maybe I don't know if Stephen Wilder was before that or after that because I learned Bible Break. But from verbatim, from beginning to end, I'm bad.
Go ahead and just bounce. People in the mouth. It's on the streets, no doubt.
I definitely sometime after that decided it was something I wanted to do, but I was both enamored with both. The two most important places for me in my life was the church and my neighborhood. Those are the two most important. Those two places shaped me the most. And so I often was trying to find balance between the two, right? I loved and recognized I loved hip hop, but I think I recognized early on I love being in front of people and being on stage. That was the biggest deal. And so I thought Stephen Wiley could do that. Like, yo, I can do that. Like, that's what's up. And the cool thing was, even that early on, my church embraced that. So because they embraced that, a lot of churches in the South, especially in the Bible Belt, wasn't embracing that. They were not embracing that. So because it was fostered in me, it allowed me, like my church early on as a kid, 11, 12, they were giving me opportunities to do that. They were giving me opportunities in front of the church to do it, like to stand up in front of the church and rap, stand up in front of the church and share what I had wrote, you know what I'm saying? And so I still remember one time I had wrote something and they had me get up there and I botched it. I messed it all up. And I remember feeling bad. I went back to the choir room by myself, you know what I'm saying? It was like sick that I messed it up. And I don't know if they quite knew I had messed it up, but I you know how you at the end you kind of mess up with this, so you just stop, you know what I'm saying? And I remember my friend coming back there and consoling me, like it's all right, it wasn't that bad, you know, kind of thing. But that was how I got my opportunity. That was how I built into that space. And they kept giving me opportunities to do it. Breath of Life Christian Center, Memphis, Tennessee. Dr. Sammy Holloway. Michael Peace was a guy I heard a little bit. Guy named Lee Wilson was in the same vein with uh uh with Stephen Wilder because they came out of that kind of Kenneth Hagee kind of camp meeting. They used to have this show they came on. It was lame, but there was a show called Fire by Night, you know what I'm saying? And Stephen Wilder was on that show, kind of come out of that same space. Willie George, they had this kind of all in kind of this same thing as a Christian kid coming up. I kind of got exposed to that. So Michael Peace would have been one I would have heard. Um, uh, um, DOC was a group called DOC, Disciples of Christ. Um, I think T Bone would break on the scene around in the 80s, um, early 90s. He was one that we would have I would have caught early on as well. But I think the most influential guy was Stephen Wilder. He was the most influential guy. So I would have been late 80s. Yep. I would have started. I would venture to say around 88, 89. I thought, I'm gonna try to do this and start trying to write little raps. And that first was with my guy Eddie Jr. So Eddie Jr., Eddie Jr. started together, right? We was in children's church trying to rap. And so we got our first opportunities to do something on stage in children's church, in children's ministry, amongst our other peers in fourth, fifth, sixth grade, right? And then that kind of just expanded and I moved into the 90s doing that. I kind of slowed down a little bit, and then my partner that I rock with for some years, guy named Reggie Hines, we called him. Where at that time he was just Jay, right? So I was Mr. C, he was Jay, and that Jay was his middle name, right? It was just his little middle name was Jay. So he just went by Jay, and we start. He came to me one time doing service. I may have been 15 then, and he was like, "Hey man, I heard you rap," and I was like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? He was like, "Hey man, I wanna rap too." And we end up forming a group, One Accord, and that would have been like early 90s. I would say we talking 92. 7 little 8 little 9 little hooligan. This for my hooligan boys. At that time, I didn't know of any other rap groups in Memphis, Tennessee. Christian rap groups in Memphis, Tennessee. Didn't know of any other. Now, somebody could come out later and be like, "Hey, we were doing that at the same time too." But I didn't know any other. And I'm telling you, we were going to churches and they were giving us A and B selections. You know what I'm saying? Like, "Hey man, this young boy's gonna come up here." Like I remember some of the churches we went to, they ain't even have sound systems. So they would just put the mic up next to the tape player. You know what I'm saying? And that's how the music would come to, and then we would rap to that. So, and that was real early on. I'm claiming first, you know what I'm saying? But like I said, it's the Bible Belt. I just felt like other churches wasn't really catching hold of that. It was hard to find places to go to have that opportunity, but we did. I remember uh, a church called Christ the Rock giving us opportunity. I remember uh, pastor of a church in Memphis. His name is Stacy Spencer. He's the lead pastor now, but he used to be a youth pastor. And I remember him giving us opportunities to come and do stuff. So it was few, but there were these remnants and pockets of churches and youth ministries that was allowing us the opportunity to come do that. And so it was cool for us. I mean, we were high school boys, so we thought it was cool to have that opportunity to be amongst our peers, and they were vibing with us. So it also afforded us, because of the church I was a part of, Breath of Life was a pretty popular and booming, African American church during that time. So we got to open up for a lot of artists that came through. One of the guys that we love most was this guy named Joseph Jennings. He wasn't an artist, he was a speaker he was like 50 Cent before 50 Cent. Like, had got shot a bunch of times and was in the gang life and that sort of thing. He had turned his life around, gave his life to Christ, and was now had a testimony of that and traveled and spoke. So we got to rock with Joseph Jennings every time he showed up in the city. And it didn't even matter if he was coming to our church. We got to rock with him. We opened up for groups like Out of Eden. We opened up for Yolanda Adams. We opened up for MC Hammer. It was like I don't know if you remember the state where MC Hammer wasn't rapping no more, and he had gave his life to Christ and that sort of thing. He came. We opened up for him. Um, we was in the newspaper. We were on the news. I mean, we got so many days opportunities, and I'm talking like I'm telling you, it's the 90s. Like, this is before 96. So we talking like 93, 94, right? We in the Commercial Appeal, which is a big Memphis newspaper. We on Channel 13. We on Access Television. We were getting these opportunities to do stuff. We opened up for a group called A1 Swift. I don't know if you remember them. A1 Swift was on Gospel Centric, right? Rocking with Kirk Franklin and them on that label. So we even were asked to write music for A1 Swift, right? Early on. And Chris would they were a couple, Chris and Alicia. And yeah, we were getting those type of opportunities. Man, it was cool.
Mom's on her own, just like Patty LaBelle. It was hell for a while, then things begin to jail.
I mean, Christian hip hop got better. It's got guys that got better. Like, I remember from Cross Movement and I mean, what once upon a time the biggest Christian hip hop act was DC Talk, which we never considered them hip hop, but that was one of the biggest acts out. And then I remember, Cross Movement hitting the scene and guys like that. And we were huge Grits fans. Like, we love Grits, Goatee Records. So I love what I heard and got to be a part of and see. T-Bone, right? I remember when Grape Street, it was it Grape Tree, right? And that whole they were like the No Limit of Christian hip hop, man. It was guys doing so, man, a huge Little Rascal fan, like huge Little Rascal fan, and guys like that. That was on the scene, right? And so I'm doing this the whole time. I remember the first time I heard a cat named Breathe Easy, right? Breathe Easy was younger than me, but was just like a spitter out of Chicago, right? And I remember back in the day, we used to have like Christian hip hop awards. Like, they used to rock in Atlanta, right? Which is where we are right now, but Christian Hip Hop Awards, and we would come up for Christian Hip Hop Awards and hanging out with guys and building a relationship and getting to know guys and that sort of thing. So I've just watched it evolve in a space where it just got better. Like, what hip hop is today, what I'm saying, is definitely more fitting to the mainstream. But I had vision for that. Like, I always felt like Christian hip hop guys could win Grammys, could be a part of what I'm saying, a normal flow of mainstream, and have those opportunities. That's what I always envisioned, even for myself. Like, it didn't quite pan out the way I hoped it would, but it was something I saw because I thought that space needed the gospel. That space needed to know Jesus, and it needed that impact. I think what we lacked was quality music that was comparable to what we heard. You know what I'm saying? I didn't think guys lacked ability lyrically. I just believe the church in a lot of cases has often been behind on things. And so hip hop was no different. And part of that being behind was because it wasn't really allowed to develop and flourish. It was so many people that pushed up against it and made it seem like it was just this is a worldly thing, this is secular and all these sort of thing. And I remember hearing, saying Ambassador, saying Deuce from Cross Movement. talk about the fact that God is reconciling all things unto himself, and hip hop was no different. It wasn't excluding hip hop, you know what I'm saying? He was going to do that. And so how he used hip hop to do that. And so I was hugely impacted by so many of those guys. I remember one time famed pastor out of New York, A.R. Bernard, came to our church. And like I said, we got so many opportunities. And so we got to slip him our tape. Um, and I remember he saying to us, "Yo, that's butter, right?" Now you got some Southern boys from Memphis, Tennessee. We don't say butter, you know what I'm saying? But we knew enough about New York culture to be like, "Yo, he was commending us, like he was giving us props, you know." And so it was those sort of things that we loved and relished at the time and having this opportunity. I mean, it was cool. I mean, I would have loved to see something like that be so much bigger. I don't think in the church, put it this way, early on doing Christian hip hop, because it wasn't mainstream, everybody that you went and did a show for was hearing your stuff for the first time. So it wasn't like you didn't get no radio play, you didn't get those sort of things. So anytime you went somewhere, you was reintroducing yourself, which was helpful to me. I mean, I learned a lot and grew up a lot knowing that I had to help a crowd embrace me every single time. Like I never had any lead up. There was no, I heard your song on the radio. No, you whatever I'm giving you, you hearing for the very first time, And so I'm selling that to you um right there, And so it would have been great to see a guy like Stephen Wiley. I mean, our church, because of the relationship we had with him back in the day, we used to have summer crusades is what they were called. And in our youth ministry, they were called Blaze. It had different names, but Blaze in the summer will be youth ministry stuff. And so we honored him because of the many times he had come early on in those years. So they asked me to come and put together a show, a tribute concert to him. And so it was dope to do stuff like, what I'm saying, Bible break and where do I go when I die? And then heroes and um so, those sort of songs that I remember, what I'm saying, hearing and growing up on. I mean, in hindsight, I mean, Stephen Wilder was not the dopest lyricist, like at all. You know what I'm saying? He's like, I don't rap junk and I don't rap mess. I'm rapping for the king. His name is Jesus. Some people think that Christians shouldn't get into rap. So tell me, what am I doing? Am I taking a nap? What? You know what I'm saying? I want to make one thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, so I get that part, but it was still beneficial and refreshing for a young demographics of young black Christian young men and women trying to embrace the culture with the gospel, but to contextualize it in a way that they could understand. That gave us hope to say we could do that in a creative way. You know what I'm saying? We built on what Stephen Wiley built on. The problem is it was just years behind. Like Stephen Wiley sounded like uh, you know, the Furious Five. You know what I'm saying? Don't trust me because I'm close. You know what I'm saying? But the Furious Five was doing that in, you know what I'm saying, in the early 80s. You know what I'm saying? You on this in the late 80s. You feel me? So for the most part, it's just taken us a while to catch up because we have been years behind. You know what I'm saying? But I've watched guys be able to contextualize the gospel through hip hop, through music in general, and has been able to make an impact. And so Taya met Craig, and Taya came back to my room, was like, "Yo, you got to meet this dude. He rap like you rap, core." And I was like, "What?" You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to meet him. So I remember going over to the honors dorm to meet this dude. You know what I'm saying? This long dude, about 6'4", laying across the bed. meet him for the first time, and we just became fast friends.